Hello, and welcome to the Bluegrass Sports Show, or
Yeah, show. We are two fat guys and one rather slender, perpendicular individual
Slender.
who talk crap.
I'm Carl,
I'm John.
And I'm Perry.
the animal.
We are the sensations of Swaggy Sweats.
So, today we are coming at you with a fandom video of Kentucky basketball versus Kentucky football.
Would you like me to explain it better?
Go ahead.
Okay, Peaches. I know you're struggling.
Peaches.
Our goal today, and we kind of went with this on the fly as a reaction to the result of the Kentucky-Florida football game. What we're wanting to discuss today is how one can be so spoiled with expectations and success with Kentucky basketball, but yet have the same passion for a sport that ultimately we are the most teased fan base with the most least success that you can come up with. I mean, really, to me, the only thing that even comes close in relation, some people might say the Cincinnati Bengals, at least they go to the playoffs.
Can't win a game, but they'll go there.
Some people might say the Cubs, at least the Cubs have had success in the middle of heartbreak. We don't even get the success. We just get the heartbreak.
We get teased with it. We're right there on the cusp, and then it's ripped from us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, where I want to start with this, as a fan base of basketball, we were blessed to be bred into loving Kentucky basketball.
Right.
It's not like you're a fan of a brand when you're a fan of Kentucky basketball. Now, granted, there's many a fan out there of Kentucky that's a fan of the brand, and I 100% accept that. But that's not us.
No.
We were born and bred into this.
And we've watched them for years.
So much success that we've watched. Now, we've watched unsuccessful
We've
teams.
watched failure. Yeah.
We've seen the darkest of the dark, but we've seen the brightest of the bright.
You can't darkest of dark at Kentucky, because our darkest of the dark is still brighter than a lot of teams. You know what I mean?
I'm not going to say that.
I'm going to say the darkest of the dark is 2006, about 05 to 09. The last 2 years of Tubby and the first in the Billy G.
The 05 team went to the Elite Eight.
That's what I was going to say.
Well,
the
05-06 team, it started in 2005, that 05-06 to 2009.
I got you.
Yeah.
Now, the Billy G era,
that was just the whole argument I always heard from people was, well, he beat Rick Pitino in Rupp Arena. Who cares? So he beat him in a
he won
game.
one game.
That was everybody's argument. That was the main one that I heard.
Exactly. Now, I'm going to be completely honest. Whenever we hired Gillespie, you look at his track record.
He was good.
Yes. You look at his track record.
You look how he took Texas A&M from nothing to success. What you think? What could he do with a team, with a program like Kentucky, with resources?
And it was just epic failure.
And to keep that,
he got too big of a head, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Well, he was in over his head, I think.
Yeah, maybe.
A lot of people will say that was close to the Texas A&M program or was on campus. A lot of people that were there didn't know they had a basketball team.
So he could operate and do whatever he wanted to because they weren't quite known. At Kentucky, you're under a microscope for everything you do. From what you do on the court to the color of the tie that you wear. I mean, everything you do, you're under a microscope.
Precisely. Now, that goes back to the level of spoiledness that we are for basketball.
Right.
Is the fact that you had 2 years. His first year at Kentucky, it was okay. I mean, we lost some games that were questionable.
Right.
They started off awful.
We were rebuilding. He won SEC Coach of the Year that year.
Yep.
He made the tournament without Jody Patterson or Derek Jasper.
And that's another thing when talking about that. Now I don't know that this is entirely accurate, but I read somewhere that he drove the kids so much in practice, made them practice so much, that's what led to Patterson's injuries. Things of that nature, and that hurts you as a coach.
That he ran them till their feet bled.
Yes,
exactly. And back to the point I was making, we're so spoiled with success with the basketball program that 2 years of Billy Gillespie was all that it took for Mitch Barnhart to say, we have to look elsewhere.
Yep.
You're gone. And, of course, that's where Cal comes into play.
And I was surprised to see him gone after just 2 years. I was
on the fence about
and
it.
The DUIs had something to do with that, too.
Bad. I mean, getting pulled over with cheerleaders with college cheerleaders in his car. I mean, it is what it is.
And then he would use the excuse, "I'm the coach of Kentucky."
Exactly. It's not the fact that if she's of age, she's of age. It's the fact that you're supposed to be representing the University of Kentucky.
You're not just a coach there. You're like
an ambassador.
Yes. You're almost up there with like the governor or something. You represent the program. You're the face of it.
Yeah.
Exactly. Now, pre-Gillespie, Kentucky had good years. Patino's run, fantastic. Eddie Sutton, But Joe B. and Rupp, so much success that we are spoiled with. And then Cal now. Every single year we go into the season in our minds, me and him give each other our yearly projections every single year, and rarely do one of us project shorter than the Final Four.
Exactly.
At the least, Elite Eight. And it's not that we're looking at it that biasly. We're that loaded on a yearly basis. We legitimately have a chance to at least get to the Elite Eight every single season with our own paper roster. Switch it to football. All that I heard all summer long this year, this has a chance to be a special year. This has a chance to be a special year.
I mean,
Florida's down. Tennessee's down.
Georgia's down.
Well, Georgia's good.
Well, Georgia's good, but they weren't.
But we have them on the road. That was a loss I was counting on.
Yeah.
You have a Louisville team that's just Lamar Jackson at home. You have such a chance to make this a year of so much specialness. You've got a legitimate chance on the wall to go to Atlanta and play for an SEC championship. The level of recruiting is so high, it's higher than it's ever been before. This is the year. What makes me mad, I've heard that same argument for the last 3 years concerning Mark Stoops. Now, it is 10 times harder, and I want to get your all's opinion on this. It's 10 times harder to rebuild a football team than what it is a basketball team, because
it takes a lot more time.
Joker was awful.
He was.
He was awful as a coordinator.
Joker had us to the point to where we were getting beat out for recruits by Akron.
Yeah, it was bad.
I remember the last game Rich Brooks coached against Clemson. I remember you saying this: if that's our head coach, we're in trouble. And we was.
Talking about Joker Phillips.
Yep.
And, I mean, I remember specifically seeing, I was working at E.C. Porter's at the time, and I remember looking at the newspaper stand outside. I was going out to get boogies or something, and right there, front page, Rich Brooks, Mitch Barnhart, named Joker Phillips head coach in waiting. And I was against it at that moment. That moment. But even with Joker, you had two of the biggest wins in the school's history.
LSU.
No, that was him as a coordinator. I'm talking the first win against Furrier.
Yeah.
That was Joker. And we beat Tennessee. We busted the streak against Tennessee with Joker.
With my illegitimate brother.
With your illegitimate brother.
Matt Rourke.
Matt Rourke, as they called him. And then in his last year, you're ending the season at home against Vanderbilt with 200 people in the stands, and you get beat by 40.
40-0, best I remember, wasn't it?
I believe so.
Oh, it was awful.
It was bad.
You look at that promise, and then you bring in Mark Stoops, the brain and the mastermind behind the defensive unit that beat Auburn for a national title just a few years back with Jameis Winston at the helm of quarterback.
He built that defense.
He built that defense. Whenever he was at Florida State, they were the #1 ranked defense in the country. You come in, you start seeing, wow, it's high 3-star recruits. That's fantastic for Kentucky.
Yes, that was one thing I praised on him from the get-go was his recruiting.
You've never heard of at Kentucky. You're seeing this guy that's a defensive specialist. You go out and you get this coordinator, you get this guy, you get this recruiting specialist.
He's got the Stoops name on top of it.
On top of it, exactly. You go into this season, you start 3-0. You struggle at Southern Miss. And we're not even talking yet about last year of choking a 35-10 lead at home against Southern Miss. We're not talking about that yet. We're talking about this year, because I'm still furious over this year. You're at home and you struggle against Eastern Kentucky. You trail for almost 3/4 of a game against Eastern Kentucky. And then you go on the road and you dominate South Carolina. And we're like, well, maybe you just can't tell nothing about this team at this point. Maybe they play to their competition. But then you see Missouri, you see South Carolina, a team that they destroyed in Missouri. It made them look so good. Missouri gets held to 3 points by Purdue, who's won 9 games in 40 years. You have South Carolina, this just yesterday, whenever you see this, you'll probably see this just a little bit farther in the future. But we're talking about this less than 24 hours after the Florida loss. It's the reason why I'm still furious. You're talking about a South Carolina team that needed a miracle catch in a last-second field goal to beat Louisiana Tech at home yesterday. And we're supposed to be something because we went to Columbia and dominated that team.
Right.
Last night, you have Florida on the ropes. That's the most dominant of a performance by a Kentucky team against Florida that I can remember in my life, except a Jared Lowenzen performance back in 2003.
Where they blew a 21-3 lead.
In the fourth quarter.
Yep. To Chris Leak.
You were up 13 points with 9.5 minutes to go. From the 5-minute mark in the third quarter until the last drive, until the final field goal fell short at the end of the game, we threw 9 passes. 6 of those were on the last drive trying to get in the field goal range.
Right.
3 pass plays in almost 17 minutes worth of game time.
Just burning
trying
time.
To milk it away.
That's all they was doing, trying to burn time. Because they didn't feel like they were going to win that game.
And it's something that Mark Stoops has done since he's been in Kentucky. It's the same thing they did last year at Southern Miss. You have a lead. Now, granted, with an 18 or 25-point lead at that point, you should be able to run more clock because you've got just a little bit more of a window.
Right.
But they've done it the entire time he's been there. You get up 2 scores or a score and a half against a team, and it doesn't matter how much times in the game, you start playing not to lose.
13 points can disappear just like that, and last night it did.
Yep. It did. And I see a lot of this, a lot of stuff over the call. That holding call. No, that holding call. That holding call did not make us lose.
They should have never been in that position.
Yeah, they should have never been that close. Never. Too many things led to that holding call changing the game.
You gave away 2 touchdowns. Gave them away. Yeah. They were wide open.
Wide open.
Nobody covered them.
One of which was on 4th and 3. From midfield, coming out of a timeout. I understand if it's
both of them were out of timeout.
Yes, I understand, but I'm talking about the one at midfield. Right. Because the one at midfield was far more pathetic because the prick lined up on our sideline. He was from here to maybe a little bit farther than you, away from me, from Mark Stoops. And you mean to tell me you can't see that and get a timeout call?
Now, on the second one, he was trying to call a timeout.
Oh, you mean after the entire coaching staff was seen on camera making adjustments with their hands and calling out different plays, and they sent somebody off the field and only had 10 guys on the field?
10 guys on the field, yes.
I don't want to hear TV showing him trying to call a timeout. He's calling a timeout because he knows he's screwed up again.
Right.
And this is not something that is new. We're looking at LSU 3 years ago, where he had, I think, 7 people on the field for a punt. You remember it. We played in Baton Rouge. He put 7 people on the field to defend a punt. We're talking about Vanderbilt 3 years ago. Whenever the same thing happened, a trick play on a fake punt, they had somebody line up on the sideline, and nobody picked him up. You're talking about nothing but organizational issues with this coaching staff.
Basic fundamental stuff that you shouldn't have to preach and pound into somebody.
Pee-wee football fundamentals.
Yes.
There's part of this that's on the player, but there's so much organization that is required from coaching.
Right.
We have been promised nothing but roses as Kentucky football fans. This goes back much farther than just Mark Stoops. There has never been a fan base that is more loyal to a team than a Kentucky football fan, and has been teased with so much than a Kentucky football fan to be given so little.
It doesn't matter if they're a 2-win team or they win 6 or 7 games, Commonwealth or Kroger Field, whatever it's called. I still call it Commonwealth. But it's packed to almost capacity every game. 70, 80,000 people every game.
It doesn't hold that much.
Well, you know what I mean. It's jam-packed. It's not as big as Tuscaloosa or Athens.
It was packed to capacity last night at 62,000.
Well, it's not as big as a traditional, what you would think, SEC, but it's jam-packed. It brings in more money than basketball does.
Well, I mean, that's football in general.
In football in general.
But what you're looking at is a fan base at this point, and some people, for example, there's a guy by the name of Chester that calls in Kentucky Sports Radio all the time, and he's the biggest cheerleader in the world for Kentucky football. He calls in with these passionate speeches. You can hear tears coming out of his eye. I know it sounds silly, but you can hear it. He's so passionate.
Right.
I want to punch him in the face because I'm so tired of hearing, we got to get behind this football team. We got to do this. We got to do that. For us to go out and have our hearts ripped out.
Right.
Year after year.
And we are behind the team. That's what I don't understand.
Yes. Last night,
we're there.
All three of us, in separate conversations, we were all in conversation. Right. There's nobody in this world that I talk to more about Kentucky sports than this man right here. Nobody. And his brother, who is similar to Chester, he's behind the team. He's got all these expectations. If something happens and it's not in our favor, the referees did
it. God love him. We love you to death, Jake, but it's not always the ref's fault. The 21-point lead we blew in Tennessee in basketball a couple years ago was not the ref's fault. That was us. Love you, brother.
What I'm saying, there's a portion of this fan base, as far as football, that they're blinded. They're blinded by their passion.
Mm-hmm.
And me and him have the same aspect for it. We will cheer our hearts out 100% behind our team. But we also know until we see it, we're not believing it.
Right. Right.
And we're frowned upon for being like that. I'm sorry. I'm 27 years old. I've followed Kentucky football passionately for probably 15 to 17 years.
Right.
And had my heart ripped out. The only positive moment, there's a couple. I was at Commonwealth whenever we beat Carolina a couple years back, the first time that Stoops beat Carolina. I was there.
Remember that?
I was in the parking lot sweeping up garbage at E.C. Porter's whenever we made the fourth down stop in overtime against LSU in 07.
I was working at McDonald's when I threw lettuce and tomatoes up in the air.
I squealed loud enough they probably heard me at North Main Chevron. There's been moments, but far outweighed the moments of good and the moments of fun. I mean, we beat Louisville at Louisville last year.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
But nobody expected it.
No, we were a 27-point underdog. That's the moments that makes Kentucky football great. The moments like what happened last night is why it's so. Why every year you will see Kentucky football fans say, "Well, it's basketball season."
Right.
I can't wait for basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Because you want so hard, so much. I'm sorry, I misspoke. You want so badly for football to matter.
Right.
If Kentucky football could find a way to be relevant, this would be a football state.
Yeah, definitely.
Look at the excitement that, with no track record whatsoever to go on, a false track record.
Mm-hmm.
Look how much excitement and buzz was created for one game last night. And Matt Jones said it best. He said it on the postgame show. The way, it's not that Kentucky got blew out. It's not that it was a competitive game and just Kentucky fell short.
Right.
The way that they lost, that's Kentucky football.
It's on him.
If there's 100%. A way to lose a game, they will find it.
Yes.
Whenever your coaching staff just has complete mental breakdowns, and that's what it is. It's a mental breakdown. I love Mark Stoops as a person, never met him, but just the personality he puts out.
He gives out, yeah.
I think he's a great coach as far as X's and O's goes, as far as development, but as far as organization, no. He's a great preparing coach. Every week, I trust the game plan he goes into a game with. Right. But once he gets to a lead, he can't play with a lead. He can't do it.
Right.
We will never beat Florida with the coaching staff we have. Because we don't have the coaching staff. We can beat Louisville. Mm-hmm. Louisville's Lamar Jackson. Who cares?
He only plays good against no names.
Exactly. Louisville's nothing. Bobby Petrino's nothing.
He blew his wad when he left Louisville the first time.
We can beat South Carolina. South Carolina's nothing. South Carolina was the tail end of Steve Spurrier and now Will Muschamp, who's flopped everywhere he's been. Mm-hmm. We're not going to beat teams like Georgia.
Right.
With tradition and with a fan base and with just an overwhelming influence just the name on the jersey.
Right.
We're not going to beat teams like Florida. We should destroy Tennessee this year. I doubt we beat Tennessee. And we play them at home.
Right.
I don't look for us to beat Tennessee.
And that's Kentucky football. There's people that will watch this, hopefully, that will hate me saying this because they look at it and say, "You've got to be behind your team."
We are.
You know what? I'm tired of having my heart ripped out of my chest by a team that underwhelms any type of expectation. You can have the lowest of low expectations for Kentucky football, and they will find a way to break
I'm
your
right
heart.
there. I have
Find a way to break your heart.
Bottom level expectation.
And
I really do.
And there's a lot of fans out there like us. You can't get behind them and have high expectations, but for that reason.
Right.
You know, they're just.
But that's what I think y'all are miscommunicating there. We're still behind them. We're still going to go watch the next game, support them. You know, we're going to be right there watching, cheering. But just having low expectations. We're not going in like basketball expecting to win.
Last night, there was a certain point where I was like, yep, they're going to find a way to lose this game. I mean, you just had that expectation. Even when they were dominating, you just knew in the back of your mind that they were going to find a way to screw up.
Mm-hmm.
When Florida scored...
We were talking about that very thing last night.
When Florida scored to cut it to 6, the very next thing we do, we go first down out of the Wildcats and get nothing. We go 3 and out. And the very first words I say to him, we're beat.
It was
Steven
disgusting.
Johnson, I'm going to say this right now, he's one of the 5 best quarterbacks to ever play at the University of Kentucky. And I mean it.
But he's good.
Steven Johnson, when you put the ball in his hand and tell him to go make a play.
Well, he's literally the one after it got pissed away. He's the one that put us back in scoring range to try to get a win. I mean, he did it.
Yes, absolutely. Now, does he make a bad throw every now and then? Yes, but every quarterback does.
Yeah, who does? Who doesn't?
I mean, I don't know what he is now. He should still be really high. But going into this week, he was top 10 in the country in QB rating.
I mean, he's amazing.
Something else about this Kentucky team going into yesterday, we were number 3 in the country in rush defense. Florida was 106 in the country in rush offense, and we gave up 186 yards. I'm mad,
I know. I love it when you get mad and you stare at the
camera. I'm one of these people. He's much more cynical at football than I am, and I'm extremely cynical.
I don't get riled up like he does, but it's.
I get really
I've got to the point where you can't. It's like you can't get your heart broke if you don't expect much.
Right.
And it's sad to say. And we're not fair weather fans. It's just how if you've grown up for years, seeing what we've seen and the heartbreak we've seen, and just the disappointment, you get to that point. You can't help but get to that point.
I think the biggest heartbreaking year for me, and that's when I felt my expectations went to the bottom of the barrel. You know what I mean? Was I believe it was 07
when they beat LSU.
When started 5-0,
and they had an amazing offense.
They had Woodson, Burton, Little, Tammy, and they were loaded on Stevie Johnson.
Yeah.
That's what made Joker look so good was those players right there.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And had a good defense.
And I had such high expectations for that team.
Started 5-0, was ranked number 8 in the country. The reason Florida beat us that year, and I'm convinced of it, we were coming off playing the number 1 team in the country, and they were coming off a bye week.
3 overtime game.
I mean, you could still have lost to Florida that year and had a magnificent season, won 9 or 10 games.
Right. Should have won 9 or 10 games.
Yeah.
But that team finished 7. You started 5-0. You finished 7-5 in the regular season.
Right.
Should have beat Tennessee. I mean, it's like they can't put 2 and 2 together. They'll have a good offense and a bad defense, or vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
I remember several times that year, Joker Phillips, they would find something that would work, get in the red zone, and completely change it. Should have beat Tennessee that year. I remember watching that last drive. Woodson marched them straight down the field, picked them apart, gets inside the 5-yard line, runs it 3 straight times, has to settle for a field goal.
Mm-hmm.
We go to overtime, 4 overtimes that year, and lose.
Could have won, and we missed a field goal.
Yep. Did not attempt to pass inside the 5-yard line. He ran it 3 straight times with Raphael Little and got stuffed all 3 times.
Mm-hmm. And that's when my expectations went.
Joker Phillips done that a lot, and that's happened a lot in general. I mean, it's just like they're cursed.
I mean, I think I made Cody Johnson mad late last night or early this morning because I'm in a group chat with him and Doug Yantis, he just made a comment. He's just flabbergasted, or whatever the word is. He
Flabbergasted.
That word.
Yeah.
He said he was something. I can't remember what he was just unbelievably disappointed.
Right.
And Cody, and I understand what he's saying. He said, I'm sure it's awful as a Kentucky fan for that to happen, to watch that happen, but it was an entertaining game to watch from an unbiased standpoint. Unless you're a Kentucky football fan, the only thing that comes close is being a Chicago Cubs fan, in which that burden's lifted off of you now.
Right.
You don't understand, and there's no way possibly that you could know.
But I do completely understand what he's saying.
I understand, yes. I think I made mad because I said, there's no way possibly that you can know what it's like to be a fan of that football team.
Right.
To have your heart ripped out consistently. Because we always buy.
But that's not a...
We always buy the same ticket. Always buy the same ticket. To where we're right there. There's the corner. That's where we turn it around. And it's not that we go and we just fail. We fail miserably.
We trip the whole way there. We'll get up, take a step, trip.
And it's just, you're given.
It's Murphy's Law with Kentucky football.
Yes, what can go wrong will go wrong.
Yep.
You are given a golden apple with Kentucky football, or you're promised this golden apple, or you're told, here's this golden apple. You bite into it, you realize it's a rotten tomato.
I love the analogies.
You laugh. You laugh because you know I'm right.
It's true.
There's no fan base in the history of sports that has been teased more and given less.
And more faithful.
I want so bad to be done, but I can't. As you said, next Saturday against Eastern Michigan.
We'll be watching. And we'll be texting.
He'll be coaching the offense. I'll be coaching the defense. And then Jake will be on special teams.
Officiating.
And hounding the officials.
Yeah. But, is that where we leave it?
I've got nothing more to say.
Wait and see.
I'm too worked up to continue this conversation.
Maybe in 30 years when they become dominant, if they ever become dominant, we'll redo it.
That's the difference in Kentucky football and basketball.
Right.
We still get heartbroken in basketball.
But not.
It's rarely.
We get heartbroken because we fall just short of our ultimate goal.
Right.
That's where you get heartbroken in basketball.
It's like once a year.
And
if that.
Last night was the most heartbroken I've been after a loss. And it's something that I'm stupid for letting myself fall into this.
Yeah.
And that's part of
last night, as you know, because we was texting.
Yes.
I really wanted to win. Really bad. He was going down and saying, we're going to lose, you just wait. I was saying, no, the fat lady has not sung yet. We still got a chance.
The fat lady never sings our praises. I think that's what I said back to you.
I had hopes for us, but the last 6 or 7 minutes, like I said, that thought creeps in the back of your mind. You know, earlier in the game, I'm like, we might do this.
Right.
And in the last 6 or 7 minutes, when they start really pissing it away, that thought comes back in your back of your head. Is it going to happen again?
If we talk about that time frame, my wife can attest to this. Oh, my God. Aaliyah, who's my daughter, wouldn't come in the living room. She was scared. She thought I was yelling at her or whatever. But, I mean, I was ticked. And I was yelling. I was mad.
With Kentucky football, the heartbreak comes from just believing so much. And it's your own fault for falling into the same trap.
I know.
Believing so much that you will simply turn the corner in a regular season. But basketball, we're spoiled to where we get our hearts broken playing for a championship or a berth for a championship.
Right.
That's the difference.
Yeah, and it's a big difference. That's a very big difference.
Last night was the most heartbroken I've been over a Kentucky loss since Wisconsin in 2015.
And in football, too, when we talk about everybody getting hyped up, right? We get extremely hyped up, and it's news when we're playing for a bowl. When we're in a bowl game, nowhere near a championship.
Yeah.
A bowl game, and we're like, oh man, they did amazing this year because they're in a bowl. They did good for them. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean they did amazing.
And versus basketball conference titles, we've got like 50 of those. You know, who cares?
Yeah.
I still celebrate it.
I do.
It's expected.
Yeah, it's expected. In football, you're just happy to have a winning record. And that's pathetic. It really is. That's pathetic.
I can't talk anymore on this. I'm too.
Yeah. But, as always,
thanks, sir.
Thank you for watching. If you liked it, hit the like button and that subscribe button. Once again, at 50 subscribers, we are going to go live on our Facebook channel. What is it called again? The Bluegrass Sports Show, I guess?
I'd assume so, since that's our name.
Well, it's Twitter. It's different.
Yeah,
the Bluegrass Sport.
Yeah, you didn't put an S in it. It's Bluegrass
I couldn't. Sport. It wouldn't let me. I ran out of time or room anyway. But on that Facebook channel, we are going to go live, or YouTube. I haven't decided which one, but we will be taking live calls for you to call in with your questions. Me and Perry will answer them. So do us a favor. Help us get to that 50. I think we're almost at 40 right now.
I don't know.
I think so. I think we're like 38 or something. But anyway, like and subscribe. And let us know if you want to see any videos, guys. Thank you.